Major hurricane.
We're in St. Petersburg, and if you can obviously see behind me, the seawall has been fully breached.
The massive hurricane strengthening into a Category 4 with winds over 100 miles an hour and an anticipated storm surge of up to 20 feet. The new images coming in tonight as we come on the air just hours before Helene makes landfall in Florida. Our reporters are fanned out across the state as heavy rain, flooding, and those powerful wind gusts hit, leaving tens of thousands without power. We'll bring you all the breaking details from the ground. Plus,
I think we should ask the federal investigators and prosecutors who gave the directive to take the actions that we are witnessing right now.
Charged with fraud and bribery, and yet he remains defiant. The mayor of the nation's largest city is indicted on 5 counts in an alleged long-standing conspiracy and an attempted cover-up, according to prosecutors. Eric Adams makes history as the first sitting New York City mayor to ever face charges. But is his time up? We have all the developments tonight. And
food carries a huge environmental burden. When we waste food, we waste the energy, water, and often wildlife habitat and nature that went into producing it.
More than 80 million tons of food waste gets dumped every year in America. The more waste, the more methane gas is released, the greater the damage to the environment. Tonight, Ginger Z reports on how schools are changing that one meal at a time. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including developments in the Middle East as concerns over a regional war grow. We talked to White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby about how the administration is responding to the conflict. Plus, the suspect charged with murdering 4 college students in Idaho makes his first appearance in a new court before a new judge. And of all weather disasters in our country's history, hurricanes have caused the most death and destruction as Hurricane Helene takes aim. We take a look at hurricane damage and recovery by the numbers, but we do begin tonight with breaking news. Hurricane Helene is now an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane, and it's set to make landfall in just a matter of hours in Florida. Conditions are already deteriorating, and communities are bracing for up to 20 inches of rain and winds up to 130 miles per hour, and then that looming and catastrophic storm surge. Take a look at the satellite at this hour. Hurricane Helene is now a Category 4 with 130-mile-an-hour winds. Its eye is about 120 miles west of Tampa. This monster storm is so large and moving so quickly that the tornado and flash flood alerts stretch up to Georgia into the Carolinas. The National Guard is in the Big Bend area of Florida tonight, ready for where Helene is expected to come ashore. The state's capital, Tallahassee, is now a ghost town. Shops are boarded up. In Cape Coral near Fort Myers, a possible tornado roared through a backyard there. Torrential rain drenched this Orlando area neighborhood. The waves crashed onto the Howard Franklin Bridge across Tampa Bay. That bridge is now shut down. And take a live look now at the Gandy Bridge in Tampa Bay. You can see emergency crews blocking it off. Our team is standing by tonight across the storm zone, and we'll be with you throughout the evening as this powerful storm prepares to make landfall. We begin with ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z in St. Petersburg, Florida, with the timing and the track. Hey, Ginger.
Hey, Lindsay, so we have just been whipped for 15 hours now with offshore winds. You see the dock behind me? It is really struggling there. It's going up and down, and the peninsula behind there has been just washed over. The winds are shifting, but as you mentioned, this is what it looks like when a hurricane's more than 120 miles away from you. It's west-northwest of us. It's already a Category 4. It has max sustained winds and gusts there. You see at 155. Wild to see what this thing will end up doing because it is going to be rocketing into the Big Bend. Here's how landfall is going to go. In the next few hours, and we're talking between 10 and midnight, we're going to see a landfalling storm probably just south of Perry there. So that's why that north to northeastward motion matters. And that's why everybody in that Appalachia Bay and the Big Bend is really where the bulk of the surge is going to hit, and of course the worst of the winds. We're going to get plenty of it around here. I'll get to all of the impacts. Let's start with a look though at all of those warnings. With the track on it, the track doesn't really tell you as much, right? You see how widespread outside of that? You'll get it. Tornado watches have been in place all day, but we also are going to see those hurricane warnings go up to Macon, Georgia. We're still in a hurricane watch here, and the tropical storm warnings up to Asheville. Let's parse out, who gets what when. Tonight is when the bulk of the surge comes, right about 10, 11, 12 into the Big Bend. That's the 10 to 20 feet. And I really can't emphasize enough, because so few people have seen this. I have seen it with my own eyes. It is unbelievable. Within minutes, you'll have this wall of water, the bubble that's been traveling with the hurricane, come up 10, then 20 feet, like 2 stories of water. It will move cars, it'll move homes, and it is unsurvivable. Here it's 4 to 8 feet, and down Naples in Fort Myers, now you've got the onshore winds, you're gonna have 3 to 5 feet of surge. Let's take the timing here, talk about the wind speeds. We'll have excessive wind warnings tonight. Those are really rare, but we will get them when it makes landfall, because I think we'll easily see 115 plus mile per hour winds, which is the qualifier there. And then it's gonna shoot to the northeast so fast that you're gonna wake up in Georgia, and if you slept through it, you'd be lucky, because it's gonna roar across your state. Atlanta, yes, could see some major wind, but I'm worried about southwest Georgia. We're talking about hurricane force where you take down trees. We think widespread power outages are possible, and it's still gonna be extremely blustery in western South Carolina, North Carolina. Along with those winds, and this is again, all through tomorrow morning, all within the next 12, 15 hours, we have the chance for extreme flash flooding, the likes of which we have not seen in a modern era, likely in more than a century in southern Appalachia, Lindsay.
Wow, that is quite the superlative there. And just give us a sense of what conditions are like right there where you are in St. Petersburg. We see that the wind is already blowing the water over the shore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been seeing that all day here. We've had, you know, upwards of 6 feet of inundation is what's possible with the storm. But throughout the day, because we've been with the offshore, meaning an east wind, comes right at this little peninsula of St. Petersburg. And we've had to move back several times because the water's overtaken. But now it's shifted. So we went from southeast, which is offshore, to now south. And once it comes onshore, a different part of Tampa Bay is going to start feeling the bulk of this. So high tide tonight is at midnight, and then we have another high tide. It's called a double high tide that comes at 8 a.m. So we'll be watching for that pull of water and surge issues all the way through tomorrow morning here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we are certainly hoping that everybody there stays safe, including you and the whole crew. Ginger, thank you. And now our Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome, is joining us now. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show. You just heard Ginger there with the latest track. Walk us through what you all are seeing.
Well, unfortunately, it's what we forecast, sort of the worst case scenario of a rapidly developing hurricane on the doorstep of land. You never want a rapidly developing hurricane, but when it happens right as it's moving ashore, that's really bad for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it's going to sort of carry that momentum, that strength, that power farther inland. So in addition to the usual catastrophic impacts you get right at the coastline with the wind and the surge, it's going to spread all that power well inland over southern and central Georgia.
And what are you most concerned about in particular?
Oh gosh, there's so many, so I'll break them down. This part of the country has a very dense tree canopy. It's what makes it such a beautiful part of the country. The problem is those trees come down really easy in wind, especially this type of wind. So we're going to have widespread power outages for days, if not weeks in some areas, impassable roads, unsafe living conditions. So people here really need to be braced to take care of themselves for several days without power. Then to the east of where it makes landfall, you're talking about a potential for a 15 or 20-foot storm surge. That is catastrophic flooding. I'm hoping all of these communities evacuated. There's nobody left, because that is not survivable conditions down there. And then adding insult to injury, I'm going to switch graphics on you really quick. We have all of this moisture streaming inland, then interacting with the mountains here over the southeast and Appalachians. That's going to create an unusual and historic flood event, so traditional rain flood. Flash flooding is often the leading cause of fatalities in hurricanes.
And a number of people understand that a Category 4 hurricane is serious, but talk to us about the dangers specifically that come along with Category 4.
With the power outages alone, where unfortunately we're a society very much dependent on power, and a lot of people need power for life-sustaining means. So elderly and vulnerable communities need power. So you imagine going without power for days and all that oppressive heat. Then the flash flooding. So the flash flooding is what concerns me most, because it's not the part of a hurricane that people sort of naturally fear. It rains all the time, so how can rain be life-threatening? But when you look back historically, this inland flash flooding is the leading cause of death in hurricanes, accounting for 50% of the lives lost.
Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome, we thank you so much for your time. Stay safe. And as the storm moves through, the major concern tonight about a catastrophic storm surge. Our Whit Johnson is in Tampa Bay tonight, where the conditions are deteriorating as we speak. What's it like for you there, Whit?
Hey, Lindsay, I can tell you the conditions are getting progressively worse. We're really starting to feel these hurricane-force wind gusts. And as you can see behind me, the bay, the water is raging, the water is rising. We've started to see some waves come up and over the seawall here all across the Tampa area. They're expecting a storm surge of up to 8 feet.
Tonight, gaining strength, size, and speed. Massive Hurricane Helene slamming ashore in Florida. Conditions deteriorating in Florida's Big Bend. Storm chasers hunker down as waves batter the coast in Carabel. Some areas bracing for up to 20 feet of storm surge. Millions also under that tornado threat. Possible twister obliterating this backyard in Cape Coral early this morning. FEMA officials watching the storm's track as it bears down.
Right now it looks like it's a dead-on hit to Tallahassee.
The capital city of 200,000 bracing for potentially the worst hurricane conditions on record. High winds and storm surge prompting authorities to shut down multiple bridges in the Tampa Bay area, including the Sunshine Skyway Bridge.
This is the very popular Bayshore Boulevard, and as you can see, even before the storm's arrival, the water is coming up and over the seawall, moving into the neighborhoods and threatening homes.
Tampa resident Rob Pokrifke watching the water rise.
It's definitely worrisome. I mean, the majority of the storm surge hasn't even shown up yet.
After hitting Florida, Helene expected to stay a hurricane as it hurtles inland. Georgia calling up the National Guard.
We have route and debris clearance teams already postured throughout the state.
Some parts of North Carolina bracing for up to 20 inches of rain on top of already saturated ground. Fearing floods and landslides, the National Weather Service warning this could be one of the most significant weather events in history for the area.
So much concern about the people there. So Whit joins us again from Tampa Bay. Whit, give us a sense of what officials are most concerned about in that area tonight.
Well, Lindsay, despite the fact that the rain is starting to pick up and so is the wind, the flood is the real concern. Tampa is a city that is mostly surrounded by water, an area that is incredibly vulnerable to flooding, even with a regular storm, let alone a hurricane. And what you saw in that story from earlier today, the water already started to breach some of the seawalls before the hurricane even came in. And now you can see around me, this water is starting to come up even higher. And high tide doesn't even come until long after dark while people are sleeping, making this flood emergency even more dangerous.
Super dangerous, understandably so. All right, Whit Johnson for us. Thank you. We'll be checking back in with you throughout the night. Victor Oquendo picks up our coverage from the state's capital, Tallahassee. Victor, give us a sense of what you're seeing there.
Well, Lindsay, the rain has been coming down steady for more than an hour, and the worst of it will be here soon. Florida's capital city has actually avoided a direct hit from a hurricane for years now, but that could all change with Helene tonight. You just heard from Jamie, the National Hurricane Center. He was talking about how Tallahassee is known for its trees. Just take a look behind me. It's canopy roads, and with Helene's strong winds, those trees can become incredibly dangerous, coming down on top of homes, blocking roads, taking down power lines. There will no doubt be a number of power outages throughout this entire area. And of course, just south of us, Lindsay, along the Big Bend, the coastal areas, have to watch for that potentially catastrophic storm surge.
Yeah, down trees, storm surge, power outages, a lot to be concerned about there. And Victor, talk about all the mandatory evacuation orders. Where are those residents going?
Lindsay, you know what? No matter the size or strength of a storm, you'll always find some people that say, no, they're going to stick it out and ride it out at home. But this time around, we have come across a lot of people who are heeding those warnings, taking them seriously and getting out of town. We saw entire families with bags packed heading into a shelter here in Tallahassee, Leon County High School, and students at Florida State University. They'll be riding this one out. We saw them with bags packed, some of them just packing up garbage bags, going into a shelter on campus. We're all bracing for a very long night ahead. Lindsay.
Yeah. All right, we can imagine. Victor Oquendo, our thanks to you. And ABC News Live Prime will continue our coverage of this Category 4 hurricane all night long. Stay with us. Do want to move on now to other major headlines this Thursday night, including the criminal indictment of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, accused of taking campaign contributions and luxury gifts from Turkey. Federal prosecutors say it went on for years. Mayor Adams was defiant today, saying he is innocent and a victim who's being targeted for speaking out about the surge of migrants in the city. And tonight, the mayor is insisting he will not resign. Here's ABC senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, something never before seen in the history of America's largest city. The sitting mayor of New York, Eric Adams, indicted, charged with bribery and fraud, accused of accepting more than $100,000 in gifts and illegal campaign contributions from Turkey.
Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal. And even though he knew these contributions were attempts by a Turkish government official and Turkish businessmen to buy influence with him.
Federal agents arriving at Gracie Mansion, the mayor's official residence, before dawn, seizing his cell phone. Prosecutors say Adams engaged in a years-long conspiracy to solicit illegal foreign campaign contributions from Turkey. And they portray a mayor who traded the tough city streets of Brooklyn for a globe-trotting life of luxury, accepting more than $100,000 worth of gifts from Turkey in exchange for official favors. Prosecutors say Turkish officials plied Adams with business-class travel and stays in high-end hotel suites.
Year after year after year, he kept the public in the dark. He told the public he received no gifts, even though he was secretly being showered with them.
According to the indictment, when the mayor's staff member once asked a Turkish Airlines official where Adams could stay while visiting Turkey, the official replied, 4 seasons. It's too expensive, the staffer responded. What does he care, said the official. He's not going to pay. His name will not be on anything either. The mayor's staffer replied, super. Prosecutors charged that in 2021, Turkey asked Adams to return the favor and use his political influence to pressure the fire department to open the new Turkish consulate in Manhattan.
Some of the people at the FDNY thought the building had so many issues and defects that the building was not safe to occupy. So the Turkish official sent word to Adams that it was, quote, his turn, unquote, to support Turkey. And as we allege, Adams delivered and pressured the fire department to let the building open.
Tonight, Adams proclaiming his innocence and portraying himself as a victim, saying he's being targeted because he spoke up about the influx of migrants in New York City.
I think we should ask the federal investigators and prosecutors who gave the directive to take the actions that we are witnessing right now.
But U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says politics had nothing to do with it.
We are not focused on the right or the left. We are focused only on right and wrong.
Adams now facing multiple calls to resign, but he says he's going nowhere.
Who's going to deal with the business of running the city? The point person is Eric Adams. I'm the mayor of the city of New York.
He is remaining defiant. Aaron, what's next for the office of the mayor of New York?
The mayor's going to be arraigned on this indictment. That's scheduled to happen tomorrow at noon Eastern time, Lindsay. You heard him say he is not going to resign. The governor here does have the power to force him out, but she has not said whether she would exercise that power. If he does go, who might replace him? Sources tell ABC News one person interested in the job, Lindsay, is former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. He resigned his office after a sexual harassment scandal. Lindsay?
All right, Aaron Katursky for us. Our thanks to you as always, Aaron. Ukraine's President Zelensky was at the White House meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris today. She vowed if she's elected president that she'll stand with Ukraine against Vladimir Putin. What former President Donald Trump said about the future of Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce with the details.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Tonight, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at her side, Vice President Kamala Harris declaring that she will remain steadfast behind Ukraine until it defeats Russia.
I've been proud to stand with Ukraine. I will continue to stand with Ukraine, and I will work to ensure Ukraine prevails in this war.
It comes after former President Trump refused to say in the ABC News debate whether he wants Ukraine to win the war.
Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
Trump says if he's elected, he could negotiate an end to the war in 24 hours. But Zelensky dismissing that claim in a new interview, telling The New Yorker Trump doesn't really know how to stop the war, even if he might think he knows how. With this war, oftentimes, the deeper you look at it, the less you understand. Zelensky also attacking Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, as too radical for floating a plan that would allow Russia to keep the Ukrainian territory it's captured and block Ukraine from joining NATO. Today, Harris saying that's exactly what Vladimir Putin wants.
These proposals are the same of those of Putin. And let us be clear, they are not proposals for peace. Instead, they are proposals for surrender, which is dangerous and unacceptable.
And now Trump taking aim at Zelensky, saying he's the one who refuses to end the war by not making concessions to Russia.
We continue to give billions of dollars to a man who refuses to make a deal, Zelensky. There was no deal that he could have made that wouldn't have been better than the situation you have right now.
Our thanks to Mary Bruce. Tonight, the suspect charged with murdering 4 college students in Idaho made his first appearance in a new court in front of a new judge. Brian Kohberger's trial moved from the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, to Boise after the defense requested a change of venue over concerns of jury impartiality. Judge Steve Hippler will now oversee the case. The defense is pushing to have the death penalty thrown out, along with their request that Kohberger appear in street clothes rather than an orange inmate jumpsuit at his upcoming trial. Still much more to get to here on Prime tonight. Southwest Airlines is planning some big changes, what it means for seating assignments and your checked bags. But next, amid deadly new conflicts between Israel and Lebanon, as well as the war in Gaza, White House National Security spokesman John Kirby joins us to talk about the U.S. push for ceasefires and its support for Israel.
The case against Sean Combs might as well just be called the freak-offs. It's all about the freak-offs.
Freak-offs, what prosecutors described as orgies.
Freak-off, what is that?
Him having sex workers have sex with his partner while he watches or participates or whatever.
He was known to have the Midas touch, and now his touch is anything but golden. It's allegedly criminal.
Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, interstate transportation for prostitution.
The AK-47s, the 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Diddy in court, pleading not guilty and denied bail.
Sean Combs is being treated like a mob boss.
He's explosive.
I can't unsee that Cassie video. You could tell me whatever you want to tell me about him. I cannot unsee the video. This very powerful man in the music industry decided to use his power to hurt others. Time's up.
Diddy, drugs, lies, and freak-offs. Now streaming on Hulu.
One great idea can change your life.
That's what Shark Tank does.
That's the American dream right there.
This calling is for my kids.
What you've done is remarkable.
I'm going to make you an offer.
One of the most innovative things I've seen in my life.
This could be our biggest deal ever.
Emmy-winning Shark Tank season premiere October 18th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Did you kill Mary Yoder?
Sorry. No, I did not kill Mary Yoder.
How did she die?
When the tests came back, I thought, yeah, holy, are you kidding me?
People think she's innocent. I think she's guilty.
I'm not buying this Little Miss Innocent game.
Little Miss Innocent.
I know it wasn't me. If it wasn't me, who was it?
Only on Hulu.
Hi, my name is Patrice. I am a totally cool person with a disability. Patrice always sees the best side of life. I just looked at her and I said, would you like to be my wife?
If you get married and you're collecting a Social Security benefit, your benefit will be cut.
I don't take anything for granted.
I don't see what anyone can see in anyone.
They're never gonna stop us from loving each other.
3, 2, 1.
It's a 24/7 life together.
It's not about the fear or the risk. It's about the love of flying. 3, 2, 1.
Back now with an update on the U.S.-backed ceasefire plan between Israel and Hezbollah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arriving in New York, preparing to address the UN amid deadly new attacks in Lebanon, publicly rejecting the ceasefire, insisting, quote, "We will not stop until we achieve all our goals." ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell remains in Beirut.
Tonight, videos online showing massive airstrikes in Lebanon amid a rather public dispute between the White House and Israel. The Biden administration and others floating the idea of a 21-day ceasefire.
And I would add that the statement was indeed coordinated with the Israeli side.
But within hours, Israel calling it the opposite of the truth. And in New York tonight, Israel's Prime Minister doubling down. Netanyahu saying, "We continue to hit Hezbollah with all our might. We will not stop until we achieve our goals." But here in Lebanon, it continues unabated, softening the ground for a potential land incursion. And while the world focuses on Lebanon, more strikes, death and suffering in Gaza and the West Bank. In a rousing speech at the UN today, Palestinian President Abbas with a strong message for Israel.
We will not leave. We will not leave. We will not leave.
Linsey, despite this confusion at best, disagreement at worst, Benjamin Netanyahu is going to leave America with an aid package worth $8.7 billion. I guess it remains to be seen if the US gets any kind of peace process in return. Linsey?
Ian, thank you. And earlier today, we spoke with White House National Security Advisor John Kirby for more on the latest negotiations for a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel and the situation in Gaza. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby, thank you so much for speaking with us. Just today, New York Prime Minister Netanyahu said the policy is clear. We continue to hit Hezbollah with all our might. We will not stop until we achieve our goals. The U.S. is pushing a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Israel says right now that's not an option. What's the disconnect here?
Well, we're talking to him about exactly how to see if we can't move this forward. As you saw, multiple nations last night called for a 21-day ceasefire. And I want to stress a couple of things. It's 21 days. It's temporary. Nobody's suggesting that Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself against Hezbollah terrorists. Of course they do. I mean, Hezbollah just launched a ballistic missile at Tel Aviv just yesterday. But we believe that if the goal was to get families back home up near that border to restore their lives and their livelihoods, the way to do that is through diplomacy, not through an all-out war. And so we're calling for a 21-day ceasefire. We wouldn't have issued that statement last night if it didn't come on the heels of what we believed were productive discussions with Israeli leaders at very high levels. And those conversations with those Israeli leaders, this is my second point, are continuing today in New York City.
A senior U.S. official told ABC News, quote, "Israel acts like they are the superpower, not the U.S. The pressure has done no good. They do whatever they want." What's your response to that?
I think comments like that are unhelpful and, quite frankly, not reflective of the deep and contextual relationship that we have with Israel. President Biden has been a staunch supporter of Israel in his entire public life, certainly as President of the United States, putting F-16s with American pilots in the air to shoot Iranian missiles and drones down. I think we've proven to a fare thee well that we mean it when we say we take our obligations to Israel and to their self-defense very, very seriously. Now, look, they don't agree on everything. Prime Minister Netanyahu and the president have known each other for going on 40 years. But when it comes to the two-state solution, for instance, clearly, we have a different view. But on the big thing, the thing that matters the most, that's the safety and security of the Israeli people, both leaders believe strongly in that. And so that's why it's important to have these conversations and these discussions. And again, those are ongoing today.
With regard to the ongoing war in Gaza, what's the latest on a ceasefire to get the hostages home, including Americans, and to stop the bloodshed of innocent civilians?
Man, Linsey, I wish I could tell you that, we're on the brink of a breakthrough here. We're not. There hasn't been a whole lot of progress in recent days and weeks on getting a ceasefire in Gaza forward that would allow for those hostages to get home. And the principal obstacle to this progress is Sinwar himself. He's sitting down there in a tunnel, surrounded by hostages, and unwilling to have any kind of meaningful negotiation and move towards a ceasefire that would get those hostages home and get much-needed, desperate humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. So we're going to keep at it. The president directed the team to continue to work to see if there's anything we can do to move this forward, and so we're still trying to achieve that outcome.
Should Netanyahu be doing anything specifically to try to move this forward?
Well, we are, as you might expect, very much having active conversations with the Israelis about trying to come up with a fresh approach here, a way to move it forward. It was an Israeli proposal that started this whole thing back in May, that really formed the architecture of the agreement, and the vast majority of that architecture was approved by both sides. It's when you get down to the last 10% or so, when you're really talking about implementing details, that it got very, very hard.
We spoke with the Queen of Jordan earlier this week, and I just want to play you a little clip about what she had to say about America's role in this conflict.
Today, we're much closer to a regional war than we have been in the past year. And I think it is time for the global community to act. You know, specifically the U.S., I think the, expressions of concern or even calls for a ceasefire really are meaningless when you continue to provide arms that kill civilians. The answer is never more arms. That only leads to more violence and more escalation. And America's support, the blanket support that's provided for Israel, has exceeded any reasonable political calculus.
Your response on that, if Israel continues to press ahead on two fronts of this conflict, is there a point at which the U.S. needs to consider adding conditions to supporting Israel?
Well, I think, as I think we've shown, we have not been shy about expressing concerns to the Israelis about the manner in which some of their operations have been conducted. Back down when they were operating in Rafah, we did withhold a shipment of 2,000-pound bombs because the president was concerned that those kinds of bombs could not and should not be used in densely populated areas. So we have been very firm with the Israelis, again, about the prosecution of these operations. We also know it's important that Israel has the means to defend itself. And they're in a tough neighborhood, and they're up against enemies that are fully resourced and funded by Iran. And so we're also doing everything we can to try to make sure we're holding Iran accountable for these destabilizing activities.
White House National Security Spokesman John Kirby, we thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Still much more to get to. Coming up, the urgent operation to get an 8-year-old off a cruise ship, why rescuers could not waste any time. But next, as we track Hurricane Helene, we take a look at just how much hurricane damage and recovery has caused through the years by the numbers. Stay with us.
Amanda Riley was a mother, wife, speaker at her church.
Everybody loved her.
She got diagnosed with cancer.
I heard the words, "You have stage 3 blood cancer." When Amanda told me she had cancer, I was so devastated. A beloved young Christian woman fighting a battle undeserved.
We gave our hearts, our prayers. We thought she was God's gift, but she was a liar.
Why would somebody fake cancer?
Thousands of people threw money at her.
The community raised $100,000.
What surprised me is the lengths that she went to fake the cancer. There's all these pictures of her in the hospital with IV tubing.
She was accused of faking cancer. She hurt tons of people.
It was only a matter of time until Amanda's whole world came tumbling down.
Oh my God!
I was like, ha, you're lying and you're getting caught. This is over. But it wasn't, not even close.
Scamanda premieres October 9th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Can we have a little fun?
It's showtime.
Everything has led to this moment.
Now we have everything we need.
No, not everything.
Get a free demon possession with every exorcism. That's right, Lydia.
Mom.
31 Nights of Halloween. Watch all October on Freeform.
This is a world that is changing very quickly. This was just filled with forests.
There.
freaking world.
One of my students is ringworm.
Ringworm?
No, get back. Cancel classes. Burn Abbott down. Hello, Miss Teagues.
Hello, Mr. Eddie. Hope your day's going well. HR is here today, so if anyone has something they want to file, raise your hand. Not about me, about other things.
Make some noise!
These are the takeout menus I gave you.
Those were suggestions that we should go out to dinner. You're sick.
Write that down.
Come on.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, Start Here.
From Hollywood, it's Dancing with the Stars.
You know who I am, ain't had to say my name. Stack it up like Tetris, but this money ain't a game. Call star. I get money, I'm a star. I get money, I'm a star.
Dancing with the Stars returns for a 2-night event starting Monday, October 7th.
Reporting from Tel Aviv, I'm Martha Raddatz. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. Of all weather disasters in our country's history, hurricanes have caused the most death and destruction as Hurricane Helene takes aim. We take a look at hurricane damage and recovery by the numbers. 2023 was a year for the record books. According to NOAA, there were 28 weather and climate disasters that exceeded $1 billion in losses, making $93.1 billion in combined costs last year. On average, a tropical cyclone or hurricane costs $22.8 billion per event. Hurricanes are the deadliest weather events, too. 6,890 people have lost their lives in a hurricane since 1980. In those 43 years, damage from hurricanes in the U.S. totals $1.3 trillion, the most destructive disaster category. The 2017 Atlantic hurricane season was particularly intense with Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria. Maria took the lives of 2,900 people in Dominica and Puerto Rico, the deadliest of the 3 storms. Hurricane Harvey brought 61 inches of rain and lasted for 117 hours in Texas, breaking records for duration and rainfall. And Category 5 Hurricane Irma sustained wind speeds of up to 185 miles an hour for 37 hours, among the strongest in history. So far this hurricane season, we've had 9 named storms. Notably, a staggering 7 hurricanes have impacted land, and Helene is the 4th hurricane to hit the Gulf Coast this season. And we still have much more ahead here on Prime tonight. A warning from the FBI for homeowners, how con artists can scam their way into selling your property. And a Vietnam pilot who vanished more than 50 years ago, and his family finally have some answers, how they identified him.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland, from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives. The magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Raleigh, North Carolina, the U.S. Capitol, Mayfield, Kentucky,
Minneapolis,
Mexico, Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen, giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live. Streaming free right now wherever you stream your news.
Let's tell the freaking world.
One of my students is ringworm.
Ringworm?
No, get back. Cancel classes. Burn Abbott down. Hello, Miss Teagues.
Hello, Mr. Eddie. Hope your day's going well. HR is here today, so if anyone has something they want to file, raise your hand. Not about me, about other things.
Make some noise!
These are the takeout menus I gave you.
Those were suggestions that we should go out to dinner. You're sick.
Write that down.
Come on.
When you're 61 years old,
You have very few opportunities to change your life. This time, I have to be ready. This is about everybody like me. I see a future, which is not what I felt like for a really long time. I don't feel invisible now.
Three, two, one.
It's a 24/7 life together.
It's not about the fear or the risk. It's about the love of flying. 3, 2, 1.
From Hollywood, it's Dancing with the Stars.
You know who I am, ain't had to say my name. Stack it up like Tetris, but this money ain't a game. How I eat, call I star. I get money, I'm a star. I get money, I'm a star.
Dancing with the Stars returns for a 2-night event starting Monday, October 7th.
A 10th person dies in connection to a listeria outbreak. Southwest Airlines announces a series of changes, and 50 years later, a Vietnam War pilot is identified. Those stories and much more in tonight's rundown.
A 10th death has been reported from the major listeria outbreak that officials have linked to recalled Boar's Head deli meats. The CDC said that a total of 59 people from 19 states had reported being infected as of September 23rd. Boar's Head announced earlier this month that it would discontinue the sale of its liverwurst and close a meat production facility tied to the outbreak, while promising to use the outbreak as an opportunity to improve food safety measures. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been permanently disbarred from practicing law in the District of Columbia. A court of appeals ruling said Giuliani's disbarment was connected to his law license being stripped in New York State because of his role in former President Trump's bid to overturn the 2020 election. Giuliani's law license had already been suspended in Washington, D.C.
The FBI warning property owners everywhere, be on alert. The FBI telling us the scam can start when someone pretends to be the owner of a property. Experts tell us it can happen in many complex ways, but identity theft, scammers faking documents as if they're the real owner, is one way this can start. Then they reach out to a real estate agent to list the property. If the property is then sold, a deed transferred, the original owners out of luck, having to take the case to court to win their property back.
Southwest Airlines flights will have assigned seating in 2026. That's according to an announcement the company made during their Investor Day today. The airline also announced that red-eye flights will begin in February and revealed plans for a new premium seating, vacation packages, and an upgraded boarding process. One thing not changing, bags will still fly free.
This is the moment a Coast Guard crew rescued an 8-year-old boy off the coast of Northern California.
Basket is on deck.
A harrowing rescue as aviation survival technician Philip Morey rappels down, retrieving the boy first in a basket. His mom and brother hoisted up right after. Daniel Jeong was on a trip on board the Royal Princess with his family when they discovered he had appendicitis. The team rushing them to a hospital. Daniel immediately taken into surgery to have his appendix removed.
The remains of a Vietnam War pilot who went missing over 50 years ago have been found and identified. Officials said U.S. Marine Corps Captain Ronald Forrester was piloting a nighttime combat mission with a co-pilot in 1972 when he went missing. The Defense POW MIA accounting agency said investigators found remains and material evidence last year and used DNA and circumstantial evidence to identify Forrester. Officials say Captain Forrester will be buried in Arlington National Cemetery on October 7th.
Food waste isn't just filling up our landfills. It's a major source of harmful greenhouse gases. Meanwhile, millions of children are struggling each day with hunger. At an elementary school just outside of Atlanta, students are tackling both issues. In today's Climate Ready, our ongoing series about adapting to our changing environment, ABC News Chief Climate Correspondent Ginger Z shows us how these students are taking action.
It's lunchtime at Lovin Elementary, just outside of Atlanta.
We are a STEM school with a focus on agriculture. We usually are between 850 and 900 students come through every day.
Before the students leave the cafeteria, a group of them collects food that would otherwise be thrown away, saving it to make compost.
Every day at lunch, we compost our fruits and vegetables. We have our red buckets, and they just bring it around the table so everyone can compost. We just finished up collecting everything, so now we're going to go to Miss Hannibal's room, and we're going to weigh everything.
The fourth graders bring those buckets at the end of the lunch period, and they bring it in here. They weigh it. They add the weights together.
6.6.
And they're learning about adding decimals.
18.6 pounds.
More than 18 pounds of leftover food that will help instead of hurt the planet.
Now, if I take the top of my green pepper and I toss it in the trash, it goes to the landfill. There, it gets smashed between all the other inorganic stuff like plastics, and it mummifies and releases the worst kind of greenhouse gas, methane. Instead, I put this in the compost, and there it breaks down organically. That's why the kids are teaching their parents, because it can save up to 90% of the emissions.
The current projections of how much food waste we generate in America is around 80 million tons per year. A lot of it is because we just produce too much during meals, and a lot of it gets thrown out. Food carries a huge environmental burden. When we waste food, we waste the energy, water, and often wildlife habitat and nature that went into producing it.
Grants from the World Wildlife Fund helping students turn their cafeterias into classrooms, with the older students teaching the younger ones each step, using this machine to grind up and dry the food.
That's good. And then we let it rest overnight, and then it become this. Just mixed up fruit and vegetables.
Next, they add leaves to the mix, then take it outside.
We use a pitchfork and we turn them around, and once they've turned into compost, we use them for our steam garden to make our vegetables healthy.
Using old fruits and vegetables to help grow new ones. They've brainstormed other ways to reduce their food waste, too. The school also raises chickens, each one given a playful name by the kids. They get some of those scraps as well.
We went to the cafeteria and we took all the leftover scraps from the teacher's lunch bar so that we can put them into a bucket and take them to the chickens so that they can eat the leftovers.
How do the chickens react when you bring them this yummy food?
They start running because they get super excited.
And how does it make you feel to be feeding them?
It makes me feel super happy because they're enjoying it and so am I.
Food waste is the single largest component of landfills, yet 15 million children still live in food-insecure homes. The kids at Lovin are attacking that too, with the share table, saving leftover food that's still sealed and uneaten for students who get hungry during the rest of the day.
A lot of kids here don't have snacks here, and it's important for everyone to eat and stuff, so we decided to make a share table where everybody can share.
Keeping that food in a refrigerator and on a table, always accessible in a hallway.
Usually at the end of the day, all the waters are gone, all the apple slices and all sliced apples and the carrots. And usually we put bananas out here, but we don't have any.
And outside, that garden growing food, coupled with the eggs that the chickens lay, all helping to feed the students, staff, and community.
Makes me feel good that I know I'm helping somebody out.
This school is an example for what I would love to see happening all across America. Anything is possible if we approach it with optimism.
It's a really important thing, so we should do it more. It's way easier than you think if you can just try.
It makes me really proud that they are just doing these things on their own, and to see just how passionate they are. They're excited to go home and tell their families about what they've learned.
And the young shall lead them, making a difference already. Our thanks to Ginger for that. While other kids her age were reading children's books, Demi Lovato was reading acting scripts. So now she's created a documentary examining the highs and lows of growing up in the spotlight through the experiences of some of the world's most well-known former child stars. Here's ABC's Eva Pilgrim.
I try to live life with the philosophy of never having regrets. And I've made some very questionable decisions in my life. But I think ultimately there's a lesson in everything.
Demi Lovato sharing those lessons and the personal cost of her own fame growing up in front of the camera.
The popular girls signed a suicide petition saying that I should kill myself.
Her new documentary, Child Star, that she produced and co-directed, now streaming on Hulu.
Everyone wanted to make it in the industry at a young age.
Focuses on an exclusive circle of former teen idols who share their highs and lows of fame and fortune.
I really considered not wanting to act anymore, like if these are the kinds of things I had to go through.
When you are working at a young age, you're excited about it. You want to talk to your friends about it. I just didn't have that support system at school when I was younger. In fact, I was bullied. It was definitely isolating.
The film highlighting the emotional trauma that some former child actors still grapple with well into adulthood. Drew Barrymore, who famously started using drugs and alcohol by age 10,
What's happening?
was only 7 when she starred in Steven Spielberg's beloved classic, E.T.
I know that things that have happened along the way led to my own rebellion or downfall. Those were all my actions. Those were my reactions. That was my coping mechanism.
Raven-Symoné, who was on The Cosby Show, called her acting career a family business.
Sometimes, though, the parents' dreams might bleed into the child's. And you get so enmeshed, you know? Parents forget that children, young kids, are performing for their parent.
As an adult, Lovato is best known for her sizzling singing career with chart-topping hits like Heart Attack, Confident, and Sorry, Not Sorry. But it all started back in Texas when she caught the acting bug, and by age 9 was cast on Barney and Friends.
We're putting a roof on Barney's house. Okay. This is the real, this is me.
She then took the teen scene by storm, co-starring with the Jonas Brothers in Disney Channel's Camp Rock, and in her own series on the network, Sunny with a Chance. But those early years weren't as sunny as it may have appeared.
Do you feel like you had a childhood? I remember being a kid in Texas, riding my bike around the neighborhood and playing with kids in, the woods next to my house. But I think the later half of my childhood was spent working, and therefore I don't feel like I had the full experience of a normal childhood.
The music tours, photo shoots, and nonstop schedule came with pressure and little downtime.
It was so hard for me personally to stop, because how do you say no to the cover of Cosmopolitan when you know you'll just be sitting at home that day on a day off?
You talk about was sort of the way it took a toll on your self-confidence, your self-esteem, the way you viewed yourself, the rejection, and then seeing yourself on camera.
Yeah. The rejection is really difficult to deal with. Having to separate it from feeling personal is challenging for anyone to understand and go through, let alone a child.
Those struggles leading to onset outbursts, multiple rehab stays, and an opioid overdose that she touches on with Drew Barrymore.
You looked at that overdose and said, I will not go down this way. I won't go down at all. I'm going to actually rise. Yeah.
Lovato also reckoning with how she treated others when she was young and struggling emotionally, including one of her co-stars from Camp Rock.
The last few years of working together felt really challenging. I do remember, a sense of walking on eggshells.
I just want to genuinely, deeply apologize for any stress or any like walking on eggshells, any hurt feelings. Like, I'm genuinely so sorry for that. And I look back at that time and I have like profound sadness because I'm like, how many people did I treat poorly?
Allison Stoner and you had a really special moment. Why did you feel like you needed to do that?
It was important to me to right my wrongs. And I felt that even though I was a teenager with a lot of emotional baggage and mental health issues that I was struggling with, I felt like it was the respectful thing to do. And this whole project has been about healing for me.
Healing that she and other former child stars hope to pass on to future generations.
Why did you think it was important to include so many different generations of child stars?
Perspective. Being a child star for Drew Barrymore looks very different than what it's like being a child star for JoJo Siwa. And I think the biggest puzzle piece that was missing in between those two perspectives is the digital age of social media.
Since 1939, child actors have financially been protected by law, with 15% of their wages going into a trust that can't be touched until they turn 18.
Those laws aren't put in place for social media, and we need to change that.
That change may be coming. Milestone legislation has been unanimously approved in the California State Legislature. The Child Content Creator Rights Act that would require families profiting off of a minor's social media content to create similar trusts is awaiting California Governor Gavin Newsom's signature.
This isn't just for any kid on social media. This is specifically for people that are profiting off of the likeness and images of children on the internet.
Would you allow your own kids to go into the business?
I would say to them, work on your craft and be in school plays, take singing lessons. If this is what you want to do, work on your craft so that when you turn 18, you can make that decision for yourself as an adult. I think having them in the industry any younger than that just is too close to home and something that I want to protect them from.
Our thanks to Demi and Eva for that conversation. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, tracking Hurricane Helene as authorities warn of an unsurvivable storm surge. Our teams are on the ground with the latest. And protesters in Madrid push for a shorter work week. How many hours they want to be on the job?
How many elephants have you killed? True natural beauty. One of the last of its kind. But this comes at a cost. 5 countries, 5 incredible real stories of adventure, danger,
we have to go,
and deceit. Where are we going next? We got this ongoing search for the animal we've been trying to find. These are the last lands. The national parks around the world that have to be saved. There.
Let's tell the freaking world. One of my students is ringworm.
Ringworm?
No, get back. Cancel classes. Burn Abbott down. Hello, Miss Teagues.
Hello, Mr. Eddie. Hope your day's going well. HR is here today, so if anyone has something they want to file, raise your hand. Not about me, about other things.
Make some noise!
These are the takeout menus I gave you.
Those were suggestions that we should go out to dinner. You're sick.
Write that down.
Come on.
I'm
Amanda Riley was a mother, wife,
speaker at her church.
Everybody loved her. She got diagnosed with cancer.
I heard the words, "You have stage 3 blood cancer."
When Amanda told me she had cancer, I was so devastated.
A beloved young Christian woman fighting a battle undeserved.
We gave our hearts, our prayers. We thought she was God's gift, but she was a liar.
Why would somebody fake cancer?
Thousands of people threw money at her.
The community raised $100,000.
What surprised me is the lengths that she went to fake the cancer. There's all these pictures of her in the hospital with IV tubing.
She was accused of faking cancer. She hurt tons of people.
It was only a matter of time until Amanda's whole world came tumbling down.
Oh my God!
I was like, ha, you're lying and you're getting caught. This is over. But it wasn't, not even close.
Scamanda premieres October 9th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Yo, partner.
We're not partners. I'm the detective and you are the consultant. I see you brought your baby to a crime scene.
She is just spectating.
You're a single mom with 3 kids pretending to be a cop.
I am not pretending. I spot things that detectives miss. Still think my theory's flimsy?
That big brain of hers is going to help us close a lot of cases.
I'm just out here super copping.
High Potential, all new Tuesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News live.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. This is ABC News Live Prime. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with breaking news. Hurricane Helene is now an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane, and it is set to make landfall in a matter of minutes in Florida. Conditions are deteriorating, and communities are bracing for up to 20 inches of rain and winds of up to 130 miles per hour, and then that looming and catastrophic storm surge. Let's take a live look now at the Gandy Bridge in Tampa Bay. You can see emergency crews have blocked it off as a long night for residents in Florida is just getting underway. And take a look at the satellite at this hour. Hurricane Helene is now a Category 4 with 130-mile-an-hour winds. Its eye is about 115 miles south of Tallahassee. This monster storm is so large and moving so quickly that the tornado and flash flood alerts stretch up to Georgia and into the Carolinas. The National Guard is in the Big Bend area in Florida tonight, ready for where Helene is expected to come ashore. The state's capital, Tallahassee, is a ghost town. Shops are boarded up. And in Cape Coral near Fort Myers, a possible tornado roared through a backyard there. Torrential rain drenched this Orlando area neighborhood. The waves crashed onto the Howard Franklin Bridge across Tampa Bay. That bridge is now shut down. Our team is standing by tonight across the storm zone, and we'll be with you all throughout this evening as this powerful storm prepares to make landfall. And we begin with ABC's chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, in St. Petersburg, where it is now dark and about to be a long night ahead. Ginger, give us the conditions there as well as the timing of the track.
Linsey, we've within the last hour or two had a 76-mile-per-hour wind gust, and we are 150 miles away from the center of the storm. That's how far-reaching this thing is. So in the next 2 to 3 hours, we should have a landfalling hurricane, a Category 4. Max sustained winds are 30 miles per hour, and it's moving north-northeast at 23 miles per hour. It's screaming already. We knew it would, but it is going to pile that water right into the Big Bend and Appalachia Bay. So here's where this thing is going to move and what you have to look out for tonight. The motion, again, is north-northeast, so I think it's like Perry. It's anywhere from Steinhatchee to Cedar Key, where the worst of that surge is going to end up. But if we go ahead and look at the tornado watches that you mentioned, Columbia, South Carolina has been in one all day. We've seen tornado warnings popping. Jacksonville's in there, Savannah, Augusta. We'll keep seeing those extend through the night. So if you're in Georgia or South Carolina, watch carefully because this thing is going to move real fast. It's going to rocket right toward, look at that. It's so close to land, and it's going to happen again, I'd say definitely before midnight, but somewhere there, bringing the worst surge on the right side of it, but plenty of action with the extreme wind warnings likely, with the hurricane making landfall somewhere close to Tallahassee. I bet we'll have it over to Perry. Macon is in that hurricane warning still. Asheville down to Miami in a tropical storm warning. So let's go ahead and just talk about all of the threats, because in the next hour or two, I've watched this happen in a Cat 5 5. I've watched it happen in a Cat 4. Water comes up fast. It's the actual ocean pushing onto land, and that's where 10 to 20 feet will move cars easily. It will actually take 2-story homes and rip them apart. It's so powerful, and I'm so concerned about Crystal River even with 8 to 12 feet there, and Cedar Key, all the way back up to, you know, St. Mark's. So let's go ahead and talk about timing. In the next couple of hours, we get the biggest gusts. They start up easily over 70, 80, 90, and close to 100 there at 10 p.m. for Cedar Key. But the model is probably even underdoing it a little bit, given what we know about this storm. It dropped 32 millibars in 24 hours. That's well beyond the qualifier for rapid intensification. It's going to stay together pretty well, and tomorrow morning, hurricane force gusts close to it. There, Augusta, look at nearly 80 miles per hour. Greenville, South Carolina, nearly 60 with really heavy rains, and that's the other element that I know we've been hitting so hard on, but I hope people are taking seriously. It's no longer than the ocean water, obviously. It's the rain falling from the sky, and you have that flash flood threat. When you add elevation, major trouble, especially in southern Appalachia, eastern Tennessee. I'd watched from Chattanooga over to Asheville. Lindsay.
And that perhaps that the storm has actually been worse than the models, and the wind just whipping. At what point where you are you expecting the worst tonight?
Yeah, this is it for us wind-wise. We won't, get much worse than this because the storm is now off to our northeast. But what has shifted is the wind direction. So all day we had offshore wind, which here in St. Pete pushes water from the bay right onto us. But now it's gone south, and it will go southwest fully. And what that does is takes the ocean and push it onto land. So we're seeing Madeira Beach, Treasure Island. We're seeing pictures out of all those beaches taking on a lot of water. And we saw this in Idalia, which was a weaker storm. When we saw the damage from Idalia, I'm telling you, we're going to see piles of sand. We'll see things moved on some of those beaches. And around here, it's still in the 4 to 8 category for peak surge. So I think that with the onshore flow all tonight, and high tide is at midnight. So we're only going up from here water-wise. Lindsay.
All right, a lot of complicating factors there. Ginger, our thanks to you and your entire team. Stay safe. And now I want to check in with ABC's Ike Ajachi, who's in Tallahassee, Florida, where conditions are beginning to deteriorate there. Ike, give us a sense of what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, Lindsay, essentially what we're being told is that the crux of the storm, the center of this storm, is expected to hit Tallahassee here between the hours of 9:30 and 11:30 p.m. And we're essentially here hunkered down, waiting for this massive storm to get over this area. And I want to walk a little bit just so you can see how these conditions are starting to deteriorate. Ever since this day, the onset of this day, the conditions here have been getting worse and worse by the hour. You can see the wind is certainly starting to pick up here. As you can see, some of these trees are really waving with some intensity here. The rain, as you can see, is also starting to pick up, and you can see the wind, what it's doing to the rain here, essentially turning it in so many directions. This is because right now we're experiencing tropical storm wind speeds. Remember, I told you before, this storm is so huge that hurricane wind speeds can be felt 60 miles out from the center of the storm, and tropical storm wind speeds can be felt up to 350 miles out from the center of the storm. And that's exactly why you're getting these conditions now. Now, obviously, we are a couple of hours from when this storm is supposed to hit here in Tallahassee, but around here in these streets, you can see that it's already starting to come down quite heavily. But another thing that I want to show you is just how empty these streets are. Take a look. All of these streets are essentially what we're seeing right now, empty. That's because the governor here has called for those mandatory evacuation orders since yesterday morning. And a lot of the people here in the community have taken heed and gotten out of this area, though those have not are hunkering down as we speak. If you go around this neighborhood, you'll see so many sandbags on doors. You'll see so many windows and doors boarded up, including this hotel that we're staying at right now. And another issue that we're talking about right now are those downed trees and downed power lines. There is intense wind that's expected to sweep through this area in the overnight hours, and that's going to topple a lot of trees in the area. Officials are asking everybody to stay off of the roads and do not drive if possible. And of course, please do not drive in those watered areas. You know the saying, turn around, don't drown, Lindsay.
Right, and what a ghost town it is. Hopefully those who did stay and didn't heed the warnings are going to take the appropriate precautions there. Ike, thank you so much. Stay safe to you and your team, and we'll be checking back in with you in a little while. As conditions continue to deteriorate, hospitals in Florida and Georgia in the path of the storm are being forced to close or limit services. In Florida, both West Tampa Hospital and Pasadena Hospital have suspended services and transferred patients. At least 6 hospitals in Florida have already had to evacuate due to Hurricane Helene. In the Metro Atlanta area, Grady Memorial Hospital announced that all their clinics are closed through tomorrow. And Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome, is joining us once again. And Jamie, you just heard Ginger there with the latest track. Walk us through what you all are seeing now.
Yeah, it continues to show signs of strengthening. It's got a couple more hours over water, so we hope this is the it of the strengthening, but still a Category 4 landfall. You don't say that very often. That's a big time event, big storm. Once it makes landfall here over the next couple of hours, it's going to move briskly inland over southern Georgia and spread those destructive winds well inland over southern and interior Georgia.
And we spoke with you a little while ago. Anything that you're now even more worried about than when we had the most recent update?
You know, I'm increasingly worried about the inland flooding potential. As I'm going to switch graphics on you really quick, bear with me. So this is a graph that shows you where the heaviest rain and flooding potential is going to occur. So as this storm moves inland, it's just bringing all that tropical moisture with it. It's interacting with a pre-existing weather feature, a cold front, and we just have a really high potential for flooding, flash flooding, and historically speaking, 50% of the lives lost are in a setup like this.
And talk about just the dangers of Category 4 hurricanes in general.
Well, I mean, there's the wind, and the wind is catastrophic, and it's going to be especially bad here. This part of the country has a very dense tree canopy. It's a beautiful part of the country, but those trees come down. They're basically like sails, if you will. They catch the wind, and they come down really easily. So you're going to get widespread tree damage and power outages with the wind. Then you're going to get a catastrophic storm surge to the east of where it makes landfall here in the Big Bend. So this is communities like Cedar Key I'm really worried about, and then the rainfall. All of this together is going to have just this really large swath of damage over the southeastern United States. It's just not going to be a pretty picture over the next couple of days.
Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome, we thank you so much. And ABC News Live Prime will continue our coverage of this Category 4 hurricane throughout this evening. Stay with us. And now on to other major headlines this Thursday night, including the criminal indictment of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, accused of taking campaign contributions and luxury gifts from Turkey. Federal prosecutors say it went on for years. Mayor Adams was defiant today, saying that he's innocent and a victim who's being targeted for speaking out about the surge of migrants in the city. And tonight, the mayor is insisting he will not resign. Here's ABC's senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, something never before seen in the history of America's largest city. The sitting mayor of New York, Eric Adams, indicted, charged with bribery and fraud, accused of accepting more than $100,000 in gifts and illegal campaign contributions from Turkey.
Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal. And even though he knew these contributions were attempts by a Turkish government official and Turkish businessmen to buy influence with him.
Federal agents arriving at Gracie Mansion, the mayor's official residence, before dawn, seizing his cell phone. Prosecutors say Adams engaged in a years-long conspiracy to solicit illegal foreign campaign contributions from Turkey. And they portray a mayor who traded the tough city streets of Brooklyn for a globe-trotting life of luxury, accepting more than $100,000 worth of gifts from Turkey in exchange for official favors. Prosecutors say Turkish officials plied Adams with business-class travel and stays in high-end hotel suites.
Year after year after year, he kept the public in the dark. He told the public he received no gifts, even though he was secretly being showered with them.
According to the indictment, when the mayor's staff member once asked a Turkish Airlines official where Adams could stay while visiting Turkey, the official replied, 4 seasons. It's too expensive, the staffer responded. What does he care, said the official. He's not going to pay. His name will not be on anything either. The mayor's staffer replied, super. Prosecutors charged that in 2021, Turkey asked Adams to return the favor and use his political influence to pressure the fire department to open the new Turkish consulate in Manhattan.
Some of the people at the FDNY thought the building had so many issues and defects that the building was not safe to occupy. So the Turkish official sent word to Adams that it was, quote, his turn, unquote, to support Turkey. And as we allege, Adams delivered and pressured the fire department to let the building open.
Tonight, Adams proclaiming his innocence and portraying himself as a victim, saying he's being targeted because he spoke up about the influx of migrants in New York City.
I think we should ask the federal investigators and prosecutors who gave the directive to take the actions that we are witnessing right now.
But U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says politics had nothing to do with it.
We are not focused on the right or the left. We are focused only on right and wrong.
Adams now facing multiple calls to resign, but he says he's going nowhere.
Who's going to deal with the business of running the city? The point person is Eric Adams. I'm the mayor of the city of New York.
Our thanks to Aaron Katursky. Now to an update on the U.S.-backed ceasefire plan between Israel and Hezbollah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arriving New York, preparing to address the UN amid deadly new attacks in Lebanon, publicly rejecting the ceasefire, insisting, quote, we will not stop until we achieve all our goals. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Beirut.
Tonight, videos online showing massive airstrikes in Lebanon amid a rather public dispute between the White House and Israel. The Biden administration and others floating the idea of a 21-day ceasefire.
And I would add that the statement was indeed coordinated with the Israeli side.
But within hours, Israel calling it the opposite of the truth. And in New York tonight, Israel's Prime Minister doubling down. Netanyahu saying, we continue to hit Hezbollah with all our might. We will not stop until we achieve our goals. But here in Lebanon, it continues unabated, softening the ground for a potential land incursion. And while the world focuses on Lebanon, more strikes, death and suffering in Gaza and the West Bank. In a rousing speech at the UN today, Palestinian President Abbas with a strong message for Israel.
We will not leave. We will not leave. We will not leave.
Our thanks to Ian Pannell. Still more to get to tonight. Coming up, when you think of Vogue, it brings up images of high fashion and celebrities. A new film is revealing more about a former model who risked her life to capture World War II pictures for the magazine. But next, the new law passed in South Korea as the country tries to deal with a rise in deepfake pornography, the new punishment for those engaging in it.
Hi, my name is Patrice. I am a totally cool person with a disability who could do most anything. Patrice always sees the best side of life. If it can be done, she will do it. I really love Gary. I just looked at her and I said, would you like to be my wife?
If you get married and you're collecting a Social Security benefit, your benefit will be cut.
We have to have it. We'd never be able to pay the bills. I don't take anything for granted.
You're a part-time love friend, full-time friend.
To us.
Monkey on your back is the latest trend. I don't see what anyone can see in anyone else.
They can stop us from getting married. But they're never gonna stop us from loving each other.
But you.
From Hollywood, it's Dancing with the Stars.
You know who I am, ain't had to say my name. Stack it up like Tetris, but this money ain't a game. I get money, I'm a star. I get money, I'm a star.
Dancing with the Stars returns for a 2-night event starting Monday, October 7th.
Amanda Riley was a mother, wife.
Everybody loved her.
I heard the words, you have stage 3 blood cancer.
We gave our hearts, our prayers.
We thought she was God's gift, but she was a liar.
Why would somebody fake cancer?
There's all these pictures of her in the hospital with IVs, tubing. It was only a matter of time until Amanda's whole world came tumbling down.
Oh, my God!
Scamanda premieres October 9th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Reporting from the Normandy coast for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. First to Sudan, where the army launched artillery and airstrikes on the capital city of Khartoum in an effort to regain ground there. Sudan's army lost control of most of the capital at the start of its war with rapid support forces now in its 17th month. The RSF continues to make advances elsewhere in Sudan in a conflict that has displaced more than 10 million people. In South Korea, lawmakers passed a bill today that aims to alleviate what's been called a deep fake porn crisis in that country. The bill criminalizes possessing or watching explicit deepfake images or videos with punishments of up to 5 years in prison or fines up to $23,000. And hundreds protested in Madrid today in an effort to shorten working hours in Spain. Supporters of trade unions hope to force an agreement between the government and the business sector that would reduce the work week by 2.5 hours from 40 hours. The prime minister supports the measure, and it's expected to be approved by the end of the year. And it's the end of an era for the Oakland A's, playing their final game at the Oakland Coliseum today. A's legends Rickey Henderson and Dave Stewart throwing out the first pitch. Some heartbroken fans arriving early for one last look around the ballpark, even collecting dirt off the field. After 57 seasons, the A's will play in West Sacramento for the next 3 years before moving to Las Vegas. And still to come tonight, actress Andrea Riseborough tells us how she brought a real person to life on the big screen, starring opposite Kate Winslet.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food.
It's all coming up on GMA 3.
You're going to love it. We'll see you then.
GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons.
For everything you need to know.
I love that.
Me too.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories. Start Here.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Make it your daily first listen, wherever you get your podcasts.
She had this captivating smile and these beautiful eyes, and I prayed that they would find her alive.
Her car was found abandoned.
You find keys in this car that don't seem to belong to her.
That was just the beginning.
Oh, my God.
A local woman who says she sometimes has visions.
I could see blood.
I get goosebumps. This case touched you like no other had. Why? Because I know how much black girls don't matter.
All new 2020 Friday night on ABC.
I love this version of me. America's #1 most-watched daytime talk show is ABC's The View.
You all heard it here first. I love it. I'm there for it.
Hot topics, political views.
That's what we're about.
Voices that matter. It all goes down right here.
That's why it's called the what?
The View. I love it. I'm all in.
Second that. This is going to be must-see TV, and so much could happen.
Sex, lies, and a double murder.
2 small children were kidnapped.
Your mom and dad are gonna be right here waiting on you when you get home.
When the twist came, then it completely exploded.
It's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, and people don't know about it.
What kind of mother would kill her own children?
After nearly 30 years in prison, Smith now has a chance at parole. Could the woman once dubbed the most hated mom in America go free?
Killer Mom, now streaming on Hulu.
Tonight, tracking the flooding, rain, and winds from Helene. As the storm moves, we're right there along the path. Plus, the race for president, what voters are saying now. World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast. You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Live reporting, breaking new exclusives. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. A picture can tell 1,000 words, but also serve as a tool in preserving history. The new film, Lee, tells the important true story of former model-turned-photojournalist Lee Miller, played by Kate Winslet. Her editor at British Vogue is played by Academy Award-nominated actress Andrea Riseborough. Let's take a look.
They're an historical record! Well, who cares? Nobody saw them. You didn't print them. I fought for them, Lee. I fought for
them. Be preserved. What, to sit in a filing cabinet? The ministry thought they may disturb people. This happened. This really happened. Lee, this happened. These images will disturb people more than they've already been disturbed. People need to move on.
Really good stuff there. Andrea Riseborough, kind enough to join us now in studio. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So many people will remember you from Amsterdam, Birdman, of course, that Oscar nomination to Leslie. This is obviously a very different role. What drew you to it?
Kate.
I could see why.
Of course, in every way. This had been Kate's brainchild, and she's been working on it for almost 10 years now, so it was really such a passion project for her. And by the time she came to me with it and suggested me that I might play Audrey, she was just knee-deep in the archives. The woman I play, Audrey Withers, who has access to so many things, and it was so difficult for her to get access for Lee, to get a press pass as a journalist, just to be able to capture those images. If it was difficult for these two white women who have lots of access to all sorts of things, how many other voices are not represented in the fallout of war? And I think that's what Lee was so incredible at doing, is she captured the perspectives in these images, in these still images, that were forgotten. People's experience of war, you know, if the conflict is here, the ripple is so vast. And so we're indebted to her for huge amounts of photojournalism of that in that time. And she was so brave not to look away. And I think my character, Audrey, just was in awe of her tenacity.
I mean, she had really, in some cases, disturbing, maybe is the right word to look at, to describe some of the pictures with bodies piled on top of each other from a Nazi concentration camp. Just give us a sense of, and you touched on this with regard to being a woman in particular during that time, as an editor, as a photographer. Give us a sense of what that was like.
I think it's a long and larger conversation, but so often women, there's a very complicated relationship that creatives, writers, women in all sorts of different fields have with things like fashion. And at the time, Vogue was the platform, the one platform that you could get that press pass and be able to have some sort of experience as a journalist. We don't learn about her in school. And actually, she and another woman were some of the women who took some of those first photos of Dachau, amongst other things.
Tell us about your character and the distinction between British feminism, French feminism, and American feminism.
Crikey. That was very British, wasn't it? That's probably
indeed
taking care of the British aspect. Audrey wanted to bring information to those who weren't on the front line. And Lee was able to have the courage to be able to, you know, Kate said this before, but she could have come home at any moment, as could so many war correspondents right now.
But she stayed.
Yeah, she stayed, and she didn't turn away. And it cost her really a great deal. It cost her a relationship with her family.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for talking with us. Want to let our viewers know that you can see Lee, the story of Lee Miller, model turned unflinching war photographer, in theaters nationwide right now. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Linsey Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great night.
Can we have a little fun?
It's showtime.